This will be an in-depth video concerning Plagueis' orchestration of the clone army that would later be officially put into motion by Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, who did not sense the implications or the Sith plot involved. Plagueis briefly visited Kamino with his late master, Darth Tenebris, who educated him about the Kaminoans and their adeptness at cloning sentient beings. Plagueis returns to Kamino, where he inquires which species may be the most effective in a standoff against Jedi. You may be surprised that Plagueis' first choice was not cloning a human, but a more militaristic species, in which we will talk about in this video. For the passage, we will be utilizing the novelization Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. In a spoon-like seat suspended from the White Room's towering ceiling sat Higo Damask, dwarfed by a trio of slender, tailed scientists, 2 crested males and a female whose complexion was more gray than white. This being is representative of the entire species, the scientist called Ni-Timor asked in a gentle, almost susurrant voice. This one murdered 6 members of his species, Damask said, but he is otherwise typical of the Yin-Kori. The female scientist Ko-Sai had highlighted an area of the Yin-Kori's midbrain. The lack of neural pathways to the forebrain indicates an innate proclivity for violence, although the absence could be idiosyncratic. The third Kaminoan Laknor called for an enhancement of the highlighted area. The Yin-Kori's violent nature could complicate matters, Magister. Without access to sociological studies, we have no means of determining to what degree the culture of violence shapes the beings born into it. A clone raised in a laboratory setting might exhibit feral behavior unless provided with some means to express aggression. An outlet, Ko-Sai offered. Scientific studies are available, Damask said. The question is, can compliance be bred into them without affecting their violent tendencies? Probably not without disturbing the basic personality matrix, Ko-Sai said. We might produce a clone that is merely Yin-Kori in aspect, but lacks the signature characteristics of the species. Damask frowned. That won't do. Have you ever considered a more acquiescent species? Ni-Timor asked. Which would you recommend? One of the placid species, Ithorians, for example, or Kamasi. Damask shook his head. Neither species would suit my purposes. What about humans? Our experience with humans is limited, though of course we have grown many replacement organs. Human emotionalism is somewhat problematic, Ko-Sai added, but not unsolvable. Perhaps, Magister, Laknor was saying, if we understood your plans for the Yin-Kori clones, I would expect them to serve as soldiers. Ah, Ni-Timor said. Then obedience, not mere compliance, must be a prime consideration. And yet the need for some measure of free will, Ko-Sai was quick to point out. Or else, why not simply use combat automata? Laknor's large eyes fixed on Damask. These Yin-Kori appear to be ready-made for war, Magister. Are there so few of them in the galaxy that you need to clone an army? He had deliberately avoided mentioning Yin-Kori immunity to force suggestion, because he should have no way of knowing about that, or indeed anything about the action of midichlorians. But it was precisely the reptilians' capability to fashion force bubbles that he had hoped to explore. As you've already pointed out, he said after a moment, their innate bellicosity interferes with their ability to follow orders. Mostly to himself, Ni-Timor said, we would need to assure that their violent tendencies remained intact, while their behavior was less willful. Yes, Damask said. Ko-Sai craned her long neck, very challenging, though perhaps if we could be supplied with a template for experimentation. She gestured toward 3D images. Is this specimen available for thorough evaluation? I could have him delivered to Kamino, Damask said, assuming for the moment that you can deliver what I need. How much time would be required to grow a mature clone? The 3 scientists traded looks. In the case of the Yin-Kori, Ni-Timor said at last, certainly no fewer than 12 standard years. to allow for both physical and mental development. As you know, we have had some success in accelerating the growth rate of certain clone creatures, but not yet with full sentience owing to the plasticity of the youthful brain. More important, Lacknor said, while we might be able to grow a few clones, our facilities are at present inadequate to produce an army of any size. We would also need to consult with military specialists regarding programming, Kosai added. That can all be arranged, Damask said. Would you have an objection to working with Rothana Heavy Engineering? Of course not, Nitimor said. Then Damask Holdings can provide whatever funding you need. As can be inferred from the passage, Plagueis is intrigued that the Yinkori species have an innate ability to resist telepathic uses of the Force, and thus would be problematic towards the Jedi attempting to sense the Sith-driven motives of the cloned Yinkori, if suspicions were ever to arise over the legitimacy of the army. However, the inhibitor chips provided in the human clones may have had the same result, because the inhibitor chips would not affect the natural thoughts, instead forced upon the brain. The question that arises is, would the clone army have ever been more successful if the clones were Yinkori soldiers and not humans? I would say no. In fact, it may have backfired. See, if a Jedi reaches out with the Force and attempts a mind trick, or a probing of the mind, they will be able to tell if it has had any effect. If one has to repeat a mind trick, or if a probe hits a wall, the Jedi will understand that something is amiss. It would seem near impossible that the mind trick was never used on a clone during the course of the Clone Wars. If the Jedi had probed the human clone's mind, nothing would seem out of place. Unfortunately, we will never get to see the supposed future in Star Wars.